Hello everyone, Nathaniel Gavronsky, and I'm coming to you from Crunchtown, USA. That's right, I'm in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and we're going to talk about all things Linn County. Okay, so this was at one point all part of the Wisconsin Territory, and Linn County was part of the super county of Dubuque. But in 1837, on December 21st, the Wisconsin legislature broke off what was going to become Linn County from Dubuque County. They were doing this across both the Dubuque and Des Moines County areas as they were trying to create a localized governmental bodies because they were dealing with some issues with the Missouri border and what would lead up into becoming the Honey War. So Linn County isn't really organized, however, until January 15th of 1839. And there's a commission set up to determine where the county seat was going to be. Now, they tried to put these county seats as close to the center of each county as they could. And on the first day of March in 1839, they selected a location and they set up to have elections that coming August. After the elections in August, they determined that the name of the town was going to be Marion. Now, Marion is named after Francis Marion, who was a Revolutionary War hero. Now, Linn County is actually named after a gentleman by the name of Louis Linn. He was born on November 5th, 1795-96, and he studied medicine in Louisville, Kentucky. He would actually, during the War of 1812, would become a surgeon. He was raised mostly by his half-older brother, Henry Dodge, who we'll come back to later. Now, after the War of 1812, him and his brother moved further out west, and Lewis settled in a town called St. Genevieve, Missouri, and he would serve as a state senator there in 1825. But by 1832, they liked him so much they sent him to the U.S. Senate. While in the U.S. Senate, he was a huge advocate for the expansion of Western territories and settlement of the United States. He was instrumental and one of the pivotal people pushing for the creation of the Wisconsin Territory after Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio had all broken apart, and all that was left was the western part of the old Michigan Territory, and that became Wisconsin. His older half-brother, Henry Dodge, would actually become the first territorial governor of the Wisconsin Territory. Mr. Linn would actually die in office on October 3rd of 1843. So the city of Marion. So we're looking at 1839 with the city of Marion. Now, they quickly built a very, very simple courthouse. That was like 1840 to 1841. But they knew this was not going to be a permanent structure, and by 1846 they had built a better structure, but they were looking at, they wanted to build a more permanent courthouse, and since they believed that the debate on just where the county seat was going to be was settled, they decided they were going to build their third and more permanent courthouse, and that was dedicated on July 4th, 1871. Now, this was actually to great fanfare. This was actually probably one of the biggest, most celebrated 4th of July celebrations in all of Eastern Iowa history. There were people from all over Eastern Iowa and all over the county and all over, areas coming to this. There were bands, there were people from out of the state that were huge, traveling performers. This was a big deal. Marion thought they had settled the question on where the county seat for Linn County was going to be. And so 1871 rolls on, and Marion is just chugging along, but it's central. It's actually not all that close to the Red Cedar River, which is what we call as the Cedar River today. They were quite a ways away, and pressure kept building as the railroads and all the economic powerhouses that were in Cedar Rapids wanted to pull the county seat from Marion to Cedar Rapids, and that would come to be true on November 4th, 1919, when a referendum was held and they moved the county seat officially from Marion to Cedar Rapids. Now, Cedar Rapids, that's an interesting story. It was actually homesteaded and inhabited by mostly outlaws, crooks, and horse thieves. So there are two competing theories on who the first actual settler was on the east bank of the Red Cedar River. Now, there are two guys in particular. One was named Will Stone, and the other guy was Osgood, I think it was Shepherd. And Shepherd, he actually didn't like Stone. Stone got forced out of his area. Now, Stone called this area Columbus, but they just weren't going to have it. So they actually, Shepherd pushed Stone out, and Stone got pushed to the west side of the Red Cedar River. Now, you had people on the west side of the river named Eli and King, that when Shepherd tried to go to the west side of the river, they were, actually chopping logs at the time, and said that, if you want to keep trying to push us, we'll push back, and our edges are sharper. And so Shepherd moved back to the east banks of the Red Cedar River. We don't actually see a start of a plotted out town until you get to the late 38, 39, when you have two land prospectors and land surveyors by the name of Nicholas Brown and George Green. Now, Green was a lawyer, and they came into this part of Iowa, and they surveyed the land, they took speculation of it, and they decided that this was a great place for a mill. The reason why they chose this location along the Red Cedar River is that the Red Cedar River actually flows to the Mississippi via the Iowa River, and they wanted to be able to sell their goods to the ports of New Orleans. So this was a slow start for them, but by 1841 their partnership was solidified, and the mill started to take off shortly thereafter after a few hiccups. Now, on January 15th, 1849, they were able to get the state legislature to actually vote and incorporate the city of Cedar Rapids. However, its original name was known as Rapid City. Brown would change the name to Cedar Rapids a few years later, but that was still just on the east side of the Red Cedar River. Where I'm standing, Mays Island, around this time was actually purchased by a guy named Major John May. On the west side of the Red Cedar was King, and he had a town of Kingston. Kingston was a separate municipality, and May tried to create Mays Island and a community south of Kingston into West Cedar Rapids, which he was able to establish through the state legislature, but because of prone to flooding, they were never actually able to make it a viable community. As Cedar Rapids started to grow, the mill was doing really well, and by 1870, Cedar Rapids was able to annex all of the west bank of Kingston and West Cedar Rapids, creating one city. Now, Mays Island was still actually privately owned, and so it takes Cedar Rapids a few more years to get a hold of this. So now we're going through the 1870s. You see the creation of Sinclair Meatpacking, the creation of the mills that would later become the Quaker Oats Company. You start seeing a lot more commerce and the railroads coming through Cedar Rapids. In fact, there's a train that still comes through Cedar Rapids today, right through downtown. Where Shepherd's Tavern was actually the corner of 1st Avenue and 1st Street Northwest. We're talking right center downtown is where this was all developing, and it was picking up steam fast. So as we get into 1909, there's still some animosity between the east and the west side of the river. So Cedar Rapids wants to actually create a neutral municipal plaza that would be neutral to both sides. And so they purchased Mays Island for $7.50 in 1909. It's great real estate right in the middle of downtown. And they actually built their first city hall on the north end of the island. And they were actually hoping that the county seat would be moved to Cedar Rapids, and promised to dedicate the southern half of the third of the island to the county if they were to build a courthouse, and move the courthouse from Marion to Cedar Rapids. It's really ironic that this island became the seat of government and House of Justice for Linn County, because Shepherd's little crew that kind of was here after Cedar Rapids was developing, they ran all of their criminal enterprises off this island. So I think it's very ironic that this is where the courthouse and the city hall, this is where Cedar Rapids wanted those to be located. But the ploy paid off. By 1919, Cedar Rapids was where it's at. In fact, almost all the lawyers in the county lived in Cedar Rapids. They had to commute to Marion for the courthouse. So they pushed and lobbied for the courthouse and the county seat to be moved to Cedar Rapids. And they got it on November 4th, 1919. To great, dismay to the people of Marion, but Cedar Rapids had a much larger population, and a couple 3,000 votes made the difference. Now, here's the thing: the lawyers might have wanted the Cedar Rapids to be the county seat, but they didn't want to pay the bill for the new courthouse. It took until 1923 for a bond issue to get approved, so they could start building the thing. Now, the cornerstone for the courthouse you see behind me was laid on November 12th. 1923, and the county was able to occupy it with all the records on the 4th of May of 1925. And the building you see, it's a still structured building, and it's built on the outside facade with Bedford limestone from Indiana. The inside is marble floors with beautiful molding and columns in the middle. It's got stained glass ceilings. It's actually one of the most beautiful buildings in all of eastern Iowa. Now, on July 6th of 25 is when they dedicated this thing, and they weren't going to let that celebration back in 1871 show them up. They brought everything to bear for this celebration. Parades, marching down the streets, bands, show tunes, everything. In fact, the original bridge that connected the east and west side of Cedar Rapids later is what is now known as this 3rd Avenue Bridge. This isn't the original bridge. The original iron structure is long gone, but it is along this road that united East and West Cedar Rapids together. So now that you have kind of like 1923, 25, and you start seeing the massive growth of Cedar Rapids, you start, it keeps told to its origins as a mill. You see the largest cereal mill in the world is Quaker Oats, and is now General Mills. You have aerospace, NASA, and the military contractors here, and Mid-America Aerospace and Collins Aerospace. You see major, malls here. You see a lot of company. The Alliance, the major power company here in Iowa, has their building here. The Roosevelt Hotel, the DoubleTree Hotel and Convention Center. Cedar Rapids is hopping. There's a lot of things going on here. Now, local people, they all call it Crunch Town because of the General Mills factory here. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of buildings. You could probably hear some of the construction in the background. The rivers are flowing through. It's not navigable, but they can still get a lot of commerce out of these rivers from the mills. So it was a very, very huge impact on this community. Now, going through the future, Cedar Rapids has a lot of room to grow. It is growing. It kind of has its off years, but Linn County is a really well-developed and prosperous area. It is known as the City of 5 Seasons. Why? This is a question that most people have no idea about. It's really the 5th season is because the 5th season is the season we have because we're given the time to enjoy the other 4 and life. So they're just basically promoting the 5th season as that they are a comfortable standard of living with high standards. That's what they're advertising. There's actually a really popular auction house that auctions off a lot of antiques from around the world in the Katy auction. There's actually the Ragbri comes through Cedar Rapids quite a bit. It's a huge biking community. Several of the little bars and hotspots are based around bicycling. The downtown is very, very diverse as far as different types of buildings and different types of businesses and shops. It's come back. Cedar Rapids has gone through several major floods and a derecho all in the 21st century, and it's come back. Mays Island, Municipal Island, it's still being used. The courthouse here, here's the interesting thing. So the City Hall and courthouse were both here. The Cedar Rapids was the only other city in the world other than Paris that had the city hall and the courthouse on an island. So the seat of government for the city and the county was on an island. And even though City Hall has now moved on, Cedar Rapids is now still the only place in a city in the world other than Paris to have their courthouse on an island. And so there's something in common with the city of Cedar Rapids and Grand Paris. So my name is Nathaniel Gavronsky. I hope I covered everything. If you have some comments or things you want to bring up about Linn County and Cedar Rapids and Marion, please bring. There's a lot of small communities through here. The county, the metropolitan area is in the kind of south western part. Most of the northwest part of the county is all rural and dotted with small little towns. It's everything of everything. In fact, here's another interesting fact about Cedar Rapids. The geographical development of Cedar Rapids, as far as the percentages of minorities and the economic layout, is the same as the country as a whole. So Cedar Rapids is any town USA. In fact, a lot of the trials and things they want to try out in the market, they will try them first in Cedar Rapids to see how they go over, because it matches the demographics of the entire country. So Cedar Rapids is first for a lot of things. There's been a comedy made about Cedar Rapids. It wasn't filmed here, but they called it Cedar Rapids. There's been a couple of movies and TV shows that are based around the area of Cedar Rapids. And I think it's got a bright future. Cedar Rapids is actually one of the better developed and resilient communities in all of Iowa. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you'll like it. I hope you'll share it. Please subscribe and tell everyone about these county videos. I want to be able to keep doing them for you. Also, if you have anything you want to share, anything you want to bring up, please, I want to be able to know more about it. So come check out the courthouse. Come check out the old city hall. They do actually have events and stuff there you can use it for. All downtown, it's open. Like I said, there is a train that goes through town in the middle of the day 4 or 5 times because it's been here ever since they brought the railroads through in the 1850s. But thank you for watching. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, and as always, stay wise, Cedar Rapids.